Number 31, Miss Amelia Earhart.
Almost done. Hi, I'm Amelia Earhart. I'm flying around the world. It'll be the longest flight in history. But I've got some time before I have to take off again, so let me tell you about my life. I was born July 24th, 1897 in Atchison, Kansas. My mom and dad were Amy and Edwin Earhart. As a child, I was very close to my grandmother because my dad worked on the railroad and my mom traveled with him. I have one sister. Her name is Miriam. When she was old enough, me and her stayed with our grandma during the school year. I loved school. I loved to read and write. I loved to play sports and was very curious. Back then, girls weren't supposed to do things boys did like sports, but I loved to play football with my dad and collect insects with my mom. When my dad developed a drinking problem, we had to move to many new places. Even though my dad had problems, I still went to college and became a social worker. During World War I, I volunteered as a nurse. I felt very proud to be helping the wounded soldiers during that time. One day, when I was at a fair, I took my first plane ride and discovered flying. I loved it. It was all I wanted to do with my life. Some people said women should not fly, but I wanted to prove a point, that they should and take risks. I found a teacher. Her name was Nita Schnook. She taught me how to fly. When I bought my first plane, I made the final payment on my 25th birthday. I painted it yellow and called it Canary. 1 year later, I received my pilot's license from the FAI. I was so happy. One day, I got a phone call asking me if I wanted to be the first woman to fly across the Atlantic as a passenger. I took the opportunity and we took off on the Friendship in June. Later that year, I made history as the first woman to fly solo across the United States. I felt very proud to be proving women could do things men did. Several years later, I married George Putman. He became my manager, publicist, and promoter. He encouraged me to set more records for women, which was really helpful. After my flight on the Friendship, I wanted to make my own flight. So in May, I took off and made history as the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. Another year later, I received the National Geographic Society Special Gold Medal for President Hoover. Only 12 men had received the award, and I was the first woman to receive it. I also received medals from a Romanian ambassador that same year. A couple of years later, I wanted to make the longest flight in history, around the world. So in March 1937, I took off with my navigator, Fred Noonan. After the flight, I planned to give my plane to a museum for research. Me and Fred traveled all over the world. It was very exciting. When I was only a few destinations away from completing the flight, I disappeared. No one could contact me on my plane's radio. Some people thought the Japanese captured me, but the most believable theory was that I crashed and landed in the ocean. People still remember me today for my bravery and for standing up for what I believe in. Well, better get going. World records aren't going to break themselves.
What do you think of the modern day women's movements?
I felt really proud to be helping women, encouraging them. And I think what I did flying around the world and all my accomplishments helped and proved that.